The LA Chargers have an extremely bright future ahead of them with Jim Harbaugh, Justin Herbert, and the young offensive talent that they've been acquiring over the last few years, such as Joe Alt and Rashawn Slater, among others. And that's exemplified here with the amount of execution exhibited on this gap scheme run here and the big gain that they were able to have on this run play. First thing I want you to notice is it's a traditional 4-down front that they're dealing with a shade on the place on the backside and a 3 on the play side. And it's a gap scheme, so traditionally you'd have a deuce between the play side guard and tackle to 55, who is the first linebacker backside. There's a couple things I want you to notice. First, this backside backer is pressed on the line of scrimmage. And second, pre-snap, this play side backer, number 40, walks up to the line of scrimmage. And that's going to set off alarm bells for Rashawn Slater. Traditionally, like I said before, he's working in deuce block with Zion Johnson to number 55, but there's now 2 players stood up in the C gap. So these guys aren't both going to play the same gap. So traditionally, if the play side backer walks up to the line of scrimmage, this end is going to reduce, play the B gap, and this 3 technique is going to reduce and play the A gap. And that's what ends up playing out. Rashawn Slater is able to recognize 40 walking up and collect the end and seal him off in the B gap, creating that hole and that movement on the play side that's necessary to make the play go. So great job by Rashawn Slater recognizing that blitz and being able to collect the end and open things up. And then great execution here by your fullback and your backside guard on the kick out by the fullback and then the insert by the guard. Great reps all around by the offensive line, tight ends, and the fullback of the Chargers, and an awesome gap scheme run here. Bright future for the Chargers, big gain, great play. We're going to watch some Chargers pass pro here. Joe Alt and Rashawn Slater, 2 interesting reps out of Alt and Slater technique-wise. One thing that's pretty non-traditional when you watch Joe Alt is sort of how turned he gets out of his set kind of instantly. He's dealing with a pretty wide technique here, but he's fairly turned pretty quickly, which is interesting. Traditionally, offensive linemen are taught to stay square. You want your inside foot to be up the field for a couple sets to stay square. But Alt is pretty turned here, which would traditionally leave an offensive lineman open for an inside move. If Zero wanted to work a spin inside or some type of other inside move, it would potentially be open. Having a 2-way go is pretty common if your tackle is this turn in pass protection. But one positive in this rep here by Alt is the accuracy of his hands. And if you watch the Joe Alt tape, you notice how accurate his hands are in pass pro. This outside hand is always up here on that outside shoulder pad, controlling those inside movements, and then his outside hand is always in a good spot on the outside pec, or sometimes it slips up to that outside shoulder pad, but it's still accurate. And once Alt gets his hands on you, that's where his some of his awesome traits, his athleticism and his length come into play, and he's able to pretty stout protection. So interesting rep here by Alt with how turned he is in his set, but still a great rep overall with the ability to get to a good spot and get his hands on Zero and deflect him up the field. Good rep. And then just quickly shifting over to Rashawn Slater, enjoy his inside arm here as he oversets a little bit on 15, but is so strong with his inside hand that he's able to just completely stop 15's momentum and recover pretty well. So that's a great rep there by Slater on a bit of an overset, but great recovery. Duke Manyweather always says it's not a crime to get beat, but it is a crime to stay beat. So Slater does a great job there during that rep. It's reps like these where the future potential of the Chargers is really exciting, and you can't wait to see how they develop over the next few years with the talent that they have, their tackle bookends, and how much potential there is with this offensive line, having Joe Alt and Rashawn Slater. This is third down. You got to give your quarterback some time to make a play, and there's two great pass pro reps here out of Slater and Alt. First, let's watch Slater here. He's dealing with a wide technique, does a good job of getting to his spot, and Slater's one of my favorite tackles to watch in the entire NFL. Watch how accurately he lands his outside hand here and gets a fit that's good enough for him to anchor down. And then look at the anchor on Slater, that clamp with his hands, and then his ability to stop on a dime after getting a speed to power move like that from 15. Great rep by Slater. Like I said, one of my favorite tackles in the entire NFL, and just textbook pass protection here with getting to a spot, landing his punch, understanding the space, and being able to anchor down here on 15 and give Herbert some time. Now we'll shift over to Joe Alt. We talked about sometimes how turned Alt gets in his set. This is one of the better reps here where he's pretty protected against the inside move. He's in a great spot at the top of the rush, and he's able to get that traditional fit that he likes, that we'll talk about throughout the course of this video, where he gets both hands up to those shoulder pads and is able to have some control with his hands. And then Alt's got an elite anchor too. He's able to anchor down, and Herbert's comfortable in operating in sort of a collapsed pocket like this, and his feet are set and he's able to deliver an accurate ball. This one ends up being incomplete, but if you give Herbert a pocket like that where he can get his feet set and make a throw, that's all Jim Harbaugh and the Chargers can ask for. Two great reps out of their two franchise cornerstone tackles, and you just gotta love to see that. All right, we're going to watch two Joe Alt reps back-to-back here, and these two plays are a perfect example of the potential Joe Alt has when he gets into rhythm in pass protection, and just how dominant he could potentially be. We talked about Alt's set previously and how it's pretty non-traditional, and he's not very square off his initial set. But here he's pretty protected against the inside move regardless. We talked about that in one of the previous plays as well. But here's what Joe Alt is elite at right here. He gets his hands in that position that we talked about before on the outside shoulder pad, where he finds that he can clamp down and control. You see that transition that his hands have from initially landing, then they slide into good position on the shoulder pads. And Alt is very consistent with his ability to get into this position. And then Joe Alt's a big guy. He's going to be able to anchor once he gets into a spot that he wants to be in. So that's one of the elite parts of Alt's pass protection game, and something I've noticed through watching him on tape here is his hands, and then his ability to anchor once his hands are in a spot that he wants. And here's the next one where Alt's able to do basically the same thing. 52 is a little wider than the rusher on the previous rep, but Alt's set is similar. He's, like I said, still a little turned, but in a good position, protected against the inside move here. Also lagging his hand for a second with the wider inside technique. But Alt does a great job again of landing his punch right there on the outside shoulder pad, and his hands slip up into that position that he likes. And the other thing he's able to do once he gets his hands in this position is extend, use his length, and then, like I said, the anchor is pretty elite on Alt, and one of the strengths of his game. So once he gets you into that spot that he's comfortable in, he's able to anchor down and give Herbert some time to throw. All right, this is a kind of a crazy play here with the look that the Broncos give, and then it's not perfect execution by the Chargers, but they are able to score a touchdown on this play. Let's break this down, and then we'll focus on Joe Alt with a huge block on the backside to make this gap scheme go. So it looks like that we have a deuce block being worked by Slater and Johnson, 255. I don't know if traditionally in gap schemes, obviously the deuce would go to the backside backer, but I guess they're not accounting for 22 in this situation, and they're working to 55. I say that because Slater's eyes immediately go to 55 when he works up the field off the puller. But like I said, not perfectly executed. The three techniques able to remain in the B gap and kind of jam this up a bit, but the Chargers do just enough to make it go in the end. Let's go over assignments here other than the deuce block. So the center's back blocking on 97. Pipkins is going to kick out 15, and then the fullback is going to insert for 55. So that's executed pretty well. Here, it looks like 55 tries to box it, but the fullback is able to log it and make the play go because it ends up becoming a spill, and 55's spilling it to nobody, so it ends up going for a touchdown. So good execution by the pullers. And then let's watch Joe Alt here. So the backside guard is pulling for 15, and the center's back blocking on 97. This leaves Alt traditionally in a gap scheme run. You would seal off your inside B gap, and then if there's no one there, typically you would hinge back to the backside end on a gap scheme. But the B gap is occupied here, so Alt is responsible for 94 and sealing him off from the play side of the play, which he does a good job of. And then watch how Alt, once he gets the seal on 94, also blocks the backside end, who could have easily made this play off the edge. So Alt basically ends up picking up two guys and making this play go, which is pretty awesome. So good rep out of Alt. Not perfect execution by the Chargers, but they're able to do just enough, and it's a fun play, and it goes for a touchdown. So great effort here by Joe Alt. You get a better view of it here, making the play go, and Chargers score a touchdown. This video has been a little more Joe Alt-centric, and we've been analyzing some of his technique in protection and some of the good things he was able to do in this game. But I also wanted to highlight an amazing rep here by Slater, who also had an amazing game while going through this film. So Slater setting to 15 here. I think he gets to a good spot initially with that relationship he has to the rusher there, and then he's able to land his punch on the outside shoulder pad, kind of like how we were talking about with Alt earlier. And I don't know if there's many guys in the NFL that are better than Slater once he has his hands in a position of strength and is just reacting to what the rusher's giving him from there. He's very elite in that regard, and that's been present from his rookie year in the NFL and has continued to progress throughout his time on the Chargers. And let's watch a great example of that here. He lands his hands and gets him in a good spot. And first, it looks like 15 is able to create a bit of an edge here to Herbert. Slater's a bit turned in relation to where you want to be at contact and when the rusher is going to make his move. And 15 tries to lift the outside arm of Slater there, and his outside arm is so strong that he has no opportunity to do that. And then once 15 gets to the top of the pocket and wants to work back inside to Herbert, the strength of Slater's inside arm takes over, and he's not able to go anywhere, and Slater was able to put him on the ground. An incredibly strong and efficient rep here by Slater, preventing first from 15 being able to get an edge there, and then when he tries to work back up the pocket, the inside arm takes over and prevents him from doing that as well, and sticks him on the ground. Great rep by Slater. Like I said, not many guys better once they have their hands on in the NFL than Slater.